Welcome, everyone. We are so glad you're here today. My name is Julie Price. I am the connector with the Presbytery of Arkansas. I do resourcing and PR, and so this is, just one of our many workshops, retreats, things that we do here in the Presbytery. If everyone would mute themselves to start with, that would be great. And we ask that you use your chat over there for questions and comments. We'll be monitoring things from here. So without further ado, I would like to introduce the Reverend John Arnold, who is pastor at First Presbyterian Church of Rogers, Arkansas. And John, how about if you start by just giving us a little background here, how you got into marketing and into all of this?
Sure. I believe that we are the church. When I say we, is kind of the best kept secret in society. And I would love that to not be the case. Anybody else got an amen to that? And I think it's very frustrating to work so hard to share what you have and have that fall below your expectations and not know why. And so I'm here to take some expertise that I've developed over the years, both in and outside the church. I started studying marketing really a couple decades ago. I jumped in and began taking workshops, courses. I learned how to do content creation for online classes, how to launch products, and how to write what we would call compelling copy and what's called copywriting. Copywriting is just what content do you put out there and how do you do that in a really compelling and persuasive manner. And I've been blessed to watch when I leverage the principles I'm going to share with you today, that it's just common sense, and it is how we're designed as humans to be motivated to take action. And I've been blessed with seeing results when I apply the things that you're going to learn today. And I'm hoping I shortcut literally years of learning principles, because I've tried to systematize this down to some very basic concepts and practices and strategies that I really am. I'm not convinced. I know, that these things are effective when we've applied them. You'll see an example in today's presentation where we used these principles to double a vacation Bible school. We helped Pilgrimage a few years ago. We were getting a handful of people on weekends, and we began getting a dozen or more just by putting in place these same concepts for individuals to be able to effectively invite better. We've used these principles to spark new life in a flagging brown bag Bible study. So I'm really excited to get to share this stuff. And along the way, I want this really to be more a conversation than a presentation. So please jump into the comments. We may not get to everyone's question in the comments, but we will save the chat at the end. I'll review those. And I created a Facebook group. I saw we got a flood. We got over 100 folks who signed up to be here today, many of them wanting the replay video. And when I saw that kind of need out there, I jumped online about an hour ago, and I created a private Facebook group on persuasive promotion. You'll understand why I picked that title shortly. And I'll go ahead and drop that in that link to that group in the comments, because I think we're going to continue this conversation. And there's a lot more that I can share than what you're going to get today, but this will be meaty. So I'll pause there, Julie, and see if you want to add anything else. And if you don't, I will dive right in and ask you to pin my video, and then we'll start going, because we got a lot to cover and I want to honor everybody's time.
I think you can dive in. People are just sharing here, so we're doing great. Go ahead, okay. John.
Fantastic. All right. So I mentioned, I kind of alluded to the problem. I want to start with the problem, and that is you throw your announcements out there again and again and again. You don't get the people you hope and expect to. very, very frustrating. One of the key concepts you're going to learn is that you don't have a single audience. I want you to learn and understand that whenever you send something out, there is a bell curve of audiences, and they all are motivated by different things. And the average church announcement only reaches a very small percentage of those audiences. It may be 20% at best. Do typical announcements tend to address in an effective manner what you want people to do. So we're going to break down those audiences. You're going to learn the needs. You're going to learn the language, the motivation factors for those groups so that you can effectively communicate to them and reach a much broader audience. And when all's said and done, I'm going to help you see step by step how you can lay out a campaign. And that's the big thing today. We're going to be working on moving from informing people of what you're doing in your church. That's what the typical announcement does, where we get in and we say, hey, we're starting a new Bible study. It's going to start Sunday, at such and such time in the library. We're using this book and we would love to see you there. Beginners are welcome. And all we've done is just informed them what's going on, but have failed to say anything that is persuasive. So how do you move from informing people to persuading people? And if you have multiple audiences, how do you effectively be persuasive with each audience? That's where we're headed. How does that sound good to everybody? If it does, either throw like an amen in the comments or throw a hand up, so I know you're out there. And let's just jump in. There's a workbook that we sent you a link to, and I'm going to be working from that. Let me pop open. Actually, I'm just going to use my chalkboard to get us going. So here's what's pretty normative for churches. They create a blanket announcement, like I mentioned a moment ago. They broadcast that everywhere, right? We put the same announcement or a slight variant of it on our Facebook page, in the newsletter. You do a minute for mission on it in the pulpit. All your channels. We scattershot those things out there. I call that bait and wait announcements. It's like we cast it out there and hope somebody bites and comes in on that. And then we hope and pray that with enough repetition, people are going to come. Here's why that doesn't work. I'm going to call this the one audience myth. We do that as if everybody is in a single audience. Let me show you what's really happening out there. Whenever you particularly start something new, you have a bell curve of response going on. That bell curve has on one end of it a couple small groups, one that's about 2.5% of your audience, another that is about 12.5 or so, somewhere around there, 11.5. These two audiences are early adopter. Well, we'll start with the first one, visionaries and early adopters. These folks, as long as they understand and share the value of what you're offering, that's all they need to do, and they will jump right in and sign up. They are the first people to come through the door. They need little or no persuasion. They just need information, as long as they feel like you're trusted and or your values align with their values. Now, between them and the middle of the curve, we have what we call early majority. This is about 34%. And we have a late majority. These folks in the middle, they they are moved by what's in it for them, and they can be cynical. Okay. So particularly the late majority can be cynical, and they need heavy proof to take action on whatever you're offering. They too are about 34%. So when you send out a typical announcement, what happens is these folks will readily jump on it. And then a small sliver of the early majority oftentimes will follow on their coattails if they know other people are doing it. So they'll see a little bit of social proof. They'll find out that someone else is going to class, or they'll hear registrations are going well. A few may just go ahead and do it based off the information. But in traditional church promotion marketing, what happens is the vast majority of the time, you're really only speaking effectively to this much of the audience. Does that make sense to everybody? Can you throw a thumbs up or a wave and let me know that makes sense? If you have a question, holler at me and let me know. Let me scroll up my chat in case somebody else, and Julie, you can holler at me. Yeah, I see some there. And on the very far end here, I haven't mentioned, there are what we call laggards. They're about 16% of the population. And laggards, they're not going to get on board basically until their hand is forced. They are the last person to get rid of their landline. They are the last person to, you fill in the blank. You know, they have to either no longer be able to do what they'd like to be doing, or the need gets so overwhelming and compelling that they just have to make a change. So a little bit more about what goes on with each of these audiences. But let me pause there and see if there are just any questions. I'll give it a moment. And we'll walk through some characteristics of these folks a little bit more concretely. And then I want to tell you why they exist. All right, so far I'm not seeing any questions. Julie, you can interrupt me if some come in.
Yeah.
So a little bit more about them. I gave you, I think, a pretty decent picture of the visionaries and early adopters. They take action quickly. The early majority, there are a few things that you need to communicate to them for them to get on board. One is you really need to share some social proof, or that helps. What I mean by social proof is knowing that other people are doing it, hearing reviews, what people say about it, having authority sources endorse it. They want a stamp of approval by the community, and that helps them feel comfortable with opting in because they feel like it's sort of been vetted by others. They also really need to understand what the benefit of it is. And I will kind of slop that over into this group as well. They need to know how it is going to, well, what will they have, do, or be that they don't have, do, or be right now, right? They need to know the transformation that it's going to produce in their life. And typically transformations have to do with either receiving gain or eliminating pain, right? We are motivated. We're either drawn towards something because an opportunity allows us to have something, achieve a desire that we have, or it helps us eliminate a problem or a pain. And along the way, you need to very clearly communicate to folks, this is what you're going to get out of it. This is the value of it. And don't just believe me. Look at what all these other people have been saying and doing about it. The late majority, because they can be a little bit more cynical, oftentimes with them, you have to overcome objections. They're reluctant because they have a concern or a fear that's keeping them from saying yes. That's oftentimes the dividing line between them and taking action on what you're doing. So you want to take time to overcome objections with them. There are a lot of common fears like how much time will this take? How much cost will it have? Do you let beginners in? There's lots of common fears out there. You just kind of have to put yourself in the feet of that person, the shoes of that person, and say, why might I say no? And then figure out a good answer for them. The laggards and the late majority, also what helps motivate them is scarcity and urgency. So scarcity and urgency are things like we only have 30 spaces available. That would be scarcity. Urgency can be you have to sign up by this date to have a book or to have a seat in the class. Lots of different things can create urgency. We'll get into some specifics around these, but you overcome their objections, and to motivate them, to get them off the fence, sometimes they have to realize I better do it now or I'm going to miss out. So FOMO, fear of missing out, can be an underlying issue for them that if you present it in that way, they get off the fence and they join in. So it's really about moving them from desire into some sort of committed action. So that's sort of the characteristics of all these groups. I want to take a moment and kind of tell you why people break out in this way, and then we'll move on. Again, I'm going to keep checking questions. I think we're going okay. Am I moving too fast? Are we all right? Do I see a thumbs up? We're okay. I'm seeing thumbs up.
Doing good.
Right. And all of this is in the workbook with a lot more detail. And I'm kind of moving quickly over this theory portion, though it's absolutely critical because I want to get into some real live examples that we have used. So one of the assumptions beyond just that we have a single audience is that as long as people know what we're doing, we put it out there. Let's say our person begins their journey to our event over here. As long as they know what we're doing, somehow they're going to step through the door magically from that spot. The problem is the door isn't right here. The door is way up over here. And we have to build a bit of a stair step to get them there. That stair step in marketing terms has been known for years as stages of readiness. The first stage of readiness is people just need to be aware of what you're doing. So awareness is the first stage. And as I talk about these stages, I want you to notice how everything I said about those audience mirrors aspects of these stages. So first thing you have to do is you got to make them aware. This is what's going on. That's what most announcements do, right? Then the next thing is they need another step. You need to stir their interest, right? You need to grab their interest and help them move into a place of wanting to know more. Build anticipation. Help them want to know more so that they can move from there to here. And then you also need to help move them toward desire for what you're offering. Not just be in a tell you more space, but they see, they understand the value, and they say, I need that. And then they're finally ready to take action and commit. So this last portion is action. And this is a classic understanding of a marketing flow. In marketing, they would call it the customer journey. I just call it human nature, right? we got to know what's going on. We get interested in it and we get into a space of tell me more. And then as we learn more about it and we understand how it will help me, the transformation that may be possible, that translates into a desire for what's going on. And then we need somebody to tell us how we can take advantage of that. We need some kind of call to action. One thing that can pop up here, and I usually just place this under the desire phase. I'm going to, for the sake of our discussion day, I'm going to put it almost like a little wall here. And that is, we may have to overcome objections. Not everyone are going to have that, but some of them will. Do you see how these very much relate to those audiences we have out there? What happens is when we put something out there, everyone that we're speaking to is in a different place along the stages of readiness. Those visionaries and early adopters, they're actually way along the curve and they're ready to act when they hear. They have desire because they're already bought into the value and trust you. So they're ready to act. Boom, they can go. The folks that are just after them, they're probably in a place of interest. They need a little something to move them toward desire action. Those early majority and those late majority folks, they need to take yet another step up. So what's happening is you're kind of moving the audiences along the curve as you release things out. Can you see now why a single announcement that pretty much just tells people what's going on, it's very limitedly effective? Does that make sense? Let me pause here and make sure that this makes sense, because this is absolutely critical that we understand that informing only hits a small audience, and it's because of the stages of readiness that they need to move through. Let me know in the comments if that makes sense, and or if we have questions, we can slow it down and we can pause. All right. Thank you, Amy. Seeing a thumbs up from Amy, seeing an okay from another person. So here, I'll keep an eye on that, see if anything else pops up. Here's the implication of that. If that's the case, if we have to move people from awareness to interest to desire, a single announcement is not going to work. We really need a strategic campaign that bit by bit, let it touch us on these different needs for your audience. Now, you don't have to be legalistic about it and say, I can only make people aware in my first announcement, right? You could just do that. It's okay in your first announcement to begin to share what the benefits are. It's okay in that first announcement to maybe tease or tweak some anticipation. You'll see how I pulled that off in some things that I have put out there. Anywhere along the way, you can use any of these elements, but you want to be sure to hit as many of them as you can. And they are most effective when you kind of roll them out in this trajectory, because each piece becomes supportive of the next piece. You're building that staircase for people to come through the door. I think that we can go ahead and actually begin to look at some examples. I'm going to talk to you about what kind of content works best. And to do that, I'm going to share my screen. So I won't be able to see comments. Julie, if something comes in,
I'll keep you posted.
you'll need to go, hey, listen, buddy, we need to know what's going on. So I didn't do slides because I love using this chalkboard. I got to move some things around. My controls are covering up my screen. There, is everybody seeing okay? Yeah.
Mhm.
Here's the curve I was talking about. These are a little bit more pointed descriptions and summaries. So just to review, the first critical concept is that you've got multiple audience. They have different motivations. These are the audiences. The second critical concept is that multiple audiences exist because people are at different stages of readiness. Ooh, my low battery light just came on because my cord fell out. We don't want to lose the whole thing. Julie would suddenly be like, and here's the rest of the webinar.
Right.
You do it. She
Oh,
just,
yeah, sure.
she's a pro. She'd grab the guide and say, turn now to the third page. The third critical concept is that to be effective, we have to shift from announcements to strategic campaigns that address the stages of readiness. This is what that can look like. Let me show you the content that works best at each stage. And this is by no means exhaustive. I just wanted to give you a sense, and then we'll look at some examples. So in the awareness column, here's stages of readiness. And for the sake of discussion, I went ahead and broke out overcoming objections because there's really specific content that you use to do that. And while it's not a stage per se, you've got to keep it in mind as you develop a campaign. So in awareness, you're pretty much just telling people what's coming, right? So your classic announcement can oftentimes fill the bill for awareness. And you can have headlines like, mark your calendar, big upcoming event coming soon. The quick favor is, I got that term from a marketer called Jeff Walker, he's sort of the king of launches. He had an email that he often sent people when he was starting something new, and he would say, hey, I'm putting the finishing touches on a workshop that I'm going to be doing. This is what it's about. Would you please share with me any questions you have about XYZ? And that simultaneously flagged attention, and it engaged the audience, and he began to get really critical feedback. That's what the quick favor is. Save the date, those kind of things. This is where the typical one-size-fits-all announcement can pull it off. But a few well-placed bullet points definitely won't hurt, right? About benefits. So in the interest stage, you're engaging curiosity, you begin to communicate value, and you build anticipation. So some things that work really well for that are over the shoulder or behind the scenes sneak peeks. You know, I have done, for example, kids events as we were setting up. I've just gone on Facebook Live real quickly and said, oh, hey, we're getting ready. You know, I'm sitting there, you know, setting things up. I hope you're planning on coming. It's really going to be great because of boom, 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 drop some benefits. If you want to join us, here's what you need to do. Look what we just got in, you know, or like an unboxing video. Maybe you're having a book study coming up. I don't know what it is. People love unboxing videos. There's something about that. They love to see you open something up and pull it out. But doing an unboxing like, hey, our new study came in, check this out. And then you talk about a little bit about it. And those things that just flag something's coming up and build awareness. Another one of my favorite things to do is to present a problem with the promise of some solution. And I kind of did that early on in promoting this event, where I released a piece of content. You'll see it in a little bit, where I did a video and just said, hey, this is why your announcements probably aren't reaching all the people you want to reach. And I did a very quick Facebook Live where I shared that bell curve. And I essentially said, you know what? You can do better if you learn how to speak to these other audiences. So I sort of flagged the problem and I began to allude to and show what the solution can be without going into the, the particulars of it. And then said, so if you want to know more, mark your calendar, come XYZ date, we're going to be offering this promotion. Testimonials, reviews, those things can be fantastic. If you have people who have done what you're doing before and are willing to share about it, the key on testimonials, we could do a whole workshop on testimonials, is you don't want from people just something that says, oh, this is really a great book, or, Julie is the best teacher ever. You really should take this. Like, I'm sure she'd love to hear that. I'd love to hear that, but that's not compelling because it doesn't communicate anything around the value. If you get a testimonial from someone, you want to ask them, how did it help you? That's what you want to share. How did it help you? One of my favorite ways to go out and get testimonials and reviews is literally, if like you're doing a book study, pull the comments off the back of the jacket of the book and say, this is what people are saying about it. Or go to Amazon and look up reviews and cherry pick the ones that are reviews that show what people got out of it. And you can take those and say, here's what people are saying about it on Amazon. And you just boom, 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 boom. And suddenly you have a whole list of reviews and testimonials. And boy, those early adopter or early majority, they're like, okay, it's safe to do this. How many of you look at reviews before you buy something and you don't know those people from Adam? You have no idea, but you're sitting there, I don't know. And then you read the reviews. Yeah. The other social proof, here's a really common social proof thing. How many of you, be honest, have gone to dinner with about a dozen friends, a big group, and at the end of it, your waiter or waitress comes up and says, okay, who saved room for dessert? And the first half a dozen people, 8 people say, oh, no, I'm good. And then somebody says, you know what? I think I'll take that cherry cheesecake. And then the next person's like, yeah, I think I'll do that. And before you know it, they're doubling back and people are piling on. And they leave, and like 3/4 of the group now have decided to have cherry cheesecake. That's the power of social proof. So you've seen this, you've experienced in your own life. When we move into desire, here's where you really need to double down on showing the transformation. Reviews, case studies, testimonials, you'll see some overlap here. Endorsements, those things are very helpful. When I say case studies, one of the pieces that I released, I don't know how many of you saw of this, I just about 3/4 the way through, when I was here wanting to build desire, I released a video. Literally, I was like driving to pick up our exchange student from school. I turned on my camera. I know some of you out there die 1,000 deaths whenever I speak while I'm driving, but I turned on my camera and I said, hey, I want to tell you about how we doubled our vacation Bible school. And I told them the story of how we doubled our vacation Bible school. And I shared some of these principles along the way. And then I got done with it and said, if you want to know more about how we did this, like particulars, come to our workshop on, Thursday, April 18th. Things that flag a pain point, like, are you struggling with this? There's actually an old formula in marketing called PAS, which is problem, agitate, solve, where you flag the problem. I can't get anybody to come. You agitate it. I've tried this, and this, and it failed. Solution. Well, have you tried this? Or if you want to learn how to overcome that, try this. That's great content. One thing that's really great to come along, that's easy content to create, is just say, like, here are 7 reasons why you should come to the next Bible study. What is this event about and why should you come? That can be a headline. What is our Acts Bible study and why should you come? And then you list down all the reasons they should come. When you list those things, you can list the pain points, the benefits they're going to get, the pain points it's going to relieve, and you can start addressing objections they may have. Those are really easy to address in a what is this event and why should you come? Or why is this important for, and you put your event in the audience. That could be a demographic. It could be something like, why is our new prayer class important for working moms? Okay, it could be a demographic like that. Or why is our grief share important for people who feel alone in grief, or are struggling with grief? Those are posts that can be, as long as you created a list of benefits. We'll talk about how you get yourself ready for this in a moment. As long as you created a list of benefits, you can pretty readily begin to create this content. And as long as you've anticipated people's objections and started to come up with the answer for those. Let me look at the other two columns, and we'll look at two real life examples to put teeth to this, take some questions. I will pause when we get through this. So if questions emerge for you, when I start getting to that action column, begin to put things in the comments. Okay, so when you start overcoming objections, I've talked about how you need to think about why someone may say no. And you need to either show why it is irrelevant, either by answering that, or just making it clear that that's not an issue in your event. So here's some ways you can do that. Frequently asked question sheet. Those are great far along in the promotion, because you can kind of begin to address everything. You just take what you want to communicate and create a question around that. So frequently asked questions may have awareness questions. When and where are we meeting? Is there a cost, right? Just features of what's going on. You can create questions around interest. Who is this group for? And you say, like, if you've wondered about and struggling with this group could be for you. You can have desire questions, very similar. How will I benefit from being in this class? What will I walk away with? You create questions, you fill in the answer for all the things you've been wanting to tell them. And you can think about objections. What if I've never read the Bible before? Is it okay for me to come? What if I'm afraid to pray out loud, for a prayer class? Whatever you think that objection may, how much time is this going to take? Well, you're going to get about as much out of it as you put into it. But even if you put in 15 minutes a week, you're going to get a tremendous amount of value. So is that making sense? You can do a frequently asked question, and you can kind of replicate that across these other types of content. Here's a way to create some testimonial value late in the cycle and also address objections. A lot of these things can slop over categories. Why I decided to attend. You can take an objection and say, when we first were thinking about doing this, I thought this is a terrible idea. And you say your objection. What is their objection? Now you got to be earnest about this stuff. Don't fabricate it. But, if you've gone through if you had some concerns, share what changed your mind. And, it's as simple as saying, well, I believed this until I discovered this. That's a great formula. I believed that a Bible study class was only for people who already knew about the Bible until I discovered that actually, even if I've never opened the cover, we break down our questions at such a simple, understandable level in this class that anybody can come, whatever it may be. You sit there and you take an objection and you show how your mind or somebody else's mind got changed. Sometimes you can just say, you may be thinking that. Well, I thought that until, or a lot of people think that until they discover. That's a great way to get in there. these other things are variants upon that. I was opposed until myths about. I really love myths about. You might believe that this is what's going to happen. Well, let me set the record straight. You know, you don't have to use that language, but you get the idea. Take the things that are objections because those are myths they have created in their head. You can create a post that says 4 common myths about grief share. I'm going to go to grief share. That's a grief support group we have. I'm going to be forced to share things I don't want to share, or I'm afraid I'm going to get emotional in there and break down, and they're going to require me to whatever a myth may be that people have about it. You can address those things. These last couple, these are kind of catch-alls. What is blank event? Your questions answered. That's a variation on frequently asked questions. Or one of my favorites, is this for you? You know, is this for you? And you jump in and you say, it's for you if you struggle with this, you want to achieve that, you need this change, list the benefits. Or simply uncertain, you know, like, let me help you make a decision. And last but not least, during the action phase, you're going to call people to action. And oh, hang on, I'm at my control bars covering some of my stuff. And it's wanting me to take an upgrade. No, I don't want an upgrade right now. I'll stay in economy. Or wait a minute. Now all kinds of things are popping up. And I've got a tool on. You got to love that.
Oh, it always happens when you're in the middle of a workshop.
Yeah. This is the beauty of live TV. Okay. So when you get to the action phase, at this point, you can begin this early on because there are early adopters who are going to say yes, right? But now you're getting pointed about calling people to commit. You motivate folks through scarcity and urgency. You might release something that is like a deadline approaching, 24 hours left, last chance. We have limited seating, only 15 people, only 15 books left, only 15 seats left. Early bird discount, register by such and such date and save. Don't miss out. It can be that simple. That immediately says, I better do something or I'm not going to have the chance to do this. Only time we're doing this. Don't know when we'll offer it again. Does that make sense? All right. Let me pause there. We're going to look at 2 real life examples. And I'm going to check chat and I'm going to.
I think that, yeah, they want some real life examples when you mentioned VBS and increasing your numbers. But I have been directing people to Presby Art Connect, our Facebook group, saying that they can watch those videos there.
Yeah. Well, we're going to go through some of the key emails I used in that campaign. So let's do 2 real life examples now. Julie, you let me know if anybody else popped in there. And these are in your workbook. But I'm going to walk you through how I promoted this. And mind you, I only did about a half a dozen pieces of content, and we have over 100 people registered for this.
Hey,
That's
John.
how effective this is. Yeah.
Someone, Thomas has asked what channels of communication you use for each of these stages.
Oh, literally, you can use, we're going to come to that in a moment. You want to use multiple channels. You want to take content once you created it, and if possible, use it in multiple channels. I actually get into that in a moment. We're going to look at some principles that amplify your results. And one of the principles is using multiple channels. So hang on to that question. We'll actually get into that very nitty-gritty. And a lot of it, though, is you got to keep in mind, just like you have different audiences that have different compelling needs, you have different audiences who use different channels. I have people who cannot wait to get the newsletter, and I have people who say, I'm never going to open one. You know? I have people who say, why do you put it on Facebook? I'm not on Facebook. Why is it not on the website? And vice versa. So you want to use multiple channels, and I'll talk a little bit about how we can repurpose to do that. Any other questions, Julie? If not, we'll jump into these live examples.
Keep on.
We still got about 37 minutes. Okay, so in promoting this workshop, some of you will have seen some or all these items, and I found a typo. I did only pieces, only. That was at some point said only 6 pieces of content. But so to promote this workshop, I started with an awareness piece. I sent it to Presbytery. I couldn't physically be there. We set it out on the tables. It's not a very big piece. This was the front of the card. Let's look at some of the items in there. The primary purpose of this was awareness, but if you look at this, here's what would be a typical announcement, just this section right here. Persuasive promotion, step-by-step proven process that gives it some authority to increase attendance. That's the benefit, right? Increase attendance to church events. This is where it's going to be. Now down here, I have bullet points of this is what they're going to have, know, do, or be, by the end of it. Get strategies and templates. Don't let me forget to tell them about templates, Julie, at the end.
Okay.
Get strategies and templates for busy church leaders. That's my audience. So you can easily pump out great promotional campaigns. This is a feature, strategies and templates. This is the benefit of that feature. Easily pump out great promotional campaigns. Discover the 5 core audience you must know. And this is a feature, right? That's something you're going to learn. Or this is sort of a backwards benefit, right? Or be doomed to the same old faces. We actually changed that wording for the Presbyterian Church. I didn't want people
thinking that
Presbyterian event like, oh, I don't want them to look at that and say, hey, who are you calling an old face? I don't remember what we changed it to. I changed up the copy, but you get the idea there. What I'm doing is I'm flagging a pain point, right? It's a gain, but I'm zooming in on a pain point in the removal of that. Oh, I hate putting this stuff out again and again and again, and I love the people we get, but why do I only get them? Learn how to transform fence sitters into participants. Pure benefit, right? So you don't have to be wordy. I do a lot of long content, but I mix it up. I do short content and long content. Sign up link, which is, I could have made that, but that's a call to action, right? Sign up at, and they could act on it. And we had a messed up QR code. For those of you who tried to do that, my apologies. But this was an awareness piece. But do you see how I wove other elements in there? I'm already developing interest. I'm already developing desire. I didn't really deal with any objections. On the back side of the card, and I'm going to say this before we look at the back side of the card, this front side is almost pure awareness. I could have released this card on Facebook as a post, as an awareness piece. And honestly, I could have taken the back side of the card and I could have released it as an interest piece and a separate piece of content. Are you tired of knocking yourself out to get people to come and you just keep seeing the same people again and again? That's a pain point, right? Leading with the why. You always want to lead with the why. We'll say more about that in a moment. I'll get into that principle. And then I connected with my audience. I get it. You're not alone. It's not your fault. This is what you're doing. Sound familiar, so exhausting and disappointing, right? I voiced the problem. Now I'm agitating the problem. This is that PAS type of announcement. Why does no one seem to be listening? No one's probably ever told you that in any given group. Now I'm starting to hint at content, starting to hint at the solution. So here's the promise of solution. How do you reach the other 84%? You must move from informing to persuading people. It's not difficult. I want people to understand that it's, if I can do this, you can do it. You just have to know what to say and when to say it to each of the audiences. Come to Persuasive Promotion. I'll show you a step-by-step process used to double a VBS, revitalize Bible study, increase retreat attendance, and more. That is showing the transformation. That last piece is a desire statement, right? You see that and it's like, ooh, yeah, that's what I want. I want to double our vacation Bible school. I want to revitalize Bible study. I want to see our retreat attendance be more. Not a big piece, right? This could easily be a Facebook post. It could be a Presbyterian newsletter piece. It could be an email. It could be a lot of things, right? So I'll pause there. Any questions around that? But you see how they have a primary goal to them. One was interest. One was awareness. This one's really interest. And I pulled them off on the front and back of a single card. So I checked boxes literally across the spectrum very quickly. And how does that feel? I want to pause here for a moment. How does that feel different to you when you read those things? How many of you saw this and went, oh, I'm interested in that? Notice the word. How many of you saw that and felt interested? Let me know in the comments, because I know some of you are Presbyterian. How many of you, that's when you even decided when to go? You went from here to here. Now imagine for a moment that the only thing you saw was this. And I'm going to say minus even that statement, because we actually, and I'm not going to call anybody out, but if you go back to the announcements at Presbytery, there was somebody who came up shortly after me, and literally they just said, hey, we're doing XYZ. It's going to be on this date. Here's where we're meeting. Would love for you to come. So literally all they said. That was it. And totally different feel when you do something like this. I wish I knew how to get rid of that. Hang on a minute. Hell no, I'm not going to mess with it. I have that blue line at the top that's driving me crazy. I'm sure it's under annotation.
You're the only one that's looking at it, John.
Oh, okay, good. So the next piece I did was an interest and desire piece. I did a quick Facebook Live. Why your announcements are drawing a fraction of the audience you could be getting. Pain point. The purpose of for this piece was to get interest by highlighting a problem, sharing insight. And when you share insight, one of the things you do is you build authority with people, right? You're establishing yourself as an expert. And you don't have to teach it. You can just establish the curriculum as an expert. You can say, this could have easily been, let's say it was a prayer group. It could have been, why when you go to pray, it feels like you're leaving a voicemail for God and waiting for him to respond. Like you could have throw that up there, and then you could jump in and say, I learned in XYZ book that the reason we feel that way is because of this. And one of the quickest ways to get over that is this, and share a tip. And it's not even yours. You're just pulling a piece of content out of the book. And in essence, you're showcasing, you're giving you're giving away a sample. You're the guy in Sam's Club going, would you care for a piece of cheese and an olive? Like, and they take it and go, yes, I'll buy the whole case, right? That's what you're doing. And now I'm going to warn you, you may have these links. Some of these links are in PresbyArt Connect. So you may actually have to join the Facebook group. I'm not sure if that's the case, but it probably is. But we would welcome you there. There's a lot of good stuff in there. Even if you're not in our presbytery, we share a lot of resources. My third piece was a Presbytery newsletter article, 3 easy ways to make your church announcements more compelling. That could have been just as easily 3 easy ways to pray better. And you could have pulled, 3 quotes out of the book you're going to be studying. And, then underneath say, want to know more? These are taken from blah, blah, blah. Come join us on Sunday mornings for, does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Desire. This was the fourth piece I did, Facebook Live. This is the one where I said how we doubled attendance. The whole thing there was, this is like a before and after picture for a diet or a weight loss program. It's like, here's where we were. I started out by saying, here's where we were. We traditionally got 25 to 30 people, and that was it. And we got 60 before and after, and here's how we did it. So highlighting the transformation. This isn't as much about the actual nuts and bolts of the process. You just need to share a little bit. I encourage you to go back and look at some of these videos. It's really about saying, if you're here, this is where you could be. And other people have done it, or so-and-so did it, or this is how we did it. If you don't have that last portion, it's okay to just say, here's where you are. This is where you could be if you join this. How short is this? My fifth one, purely focused on action. Need help getting more people to your church events? Should be a question mark. Should be a capital C. Come join us Thursday at 1 p.m. for step-by-step training. Link below. That's one of the 6 pieces I put out. It's all it is an act. It's a line in the sand, right? It's call to action. That's it. And the last thing we did was yesterday, I had the thought of, well, we don't have to limit this to our presbytery. And I jumped in some groups that I'm in where there were relevant audiences, 2 or 3 pilgrimage groups, because I know it could help them grow attendance at pilgrimage, and a couple denominational sites and or other presbyteries I've been a part of. And I basically said, hey guys, I'm doing this tomorrow. This is how it will help you. If you think this is self-promotion, this isn't the exact words I did, but it's what I was addressing. I was addressing a concern. No, I'm just a guy who's had some success, and the Presbytery of Arkansas, we wanted to share this information. If you don't believe me, go to our Presbytery Facebook page or check out our most recent newsletter. I wanted them to realize that, like, I wasn't just out there, like trying to fleece them or a snake oil salesman. I was riding on the authority. In a way, I was leveraging an authority figure, right? I was riding on the coattails of the Presbytery's authority. But I basically just said, hey, I'm doing this tomorrow. And Julie, that produced about 70 registrations in 24 hours or something.
Oh, yeah.
Roughly.
Yeah, I got up this morning, there were 55. I just
And when we got off the phone yesterday, we had like 25.
Oh, it was more than that, but yeah.
Yeah. So, and that you can read that email for yourself in the guide. So let me pause there, and then we're going to look at the doubling of VBS examples. It won't be the whole thing, but I want to show you how these things play out. Let me pause there. And what questions or observations do you have about the campaign I did for this workshop? And I don't have my chat open, so.
Yeah, I do. No one has put anything directly. Thomas here was saying that he saw what you did yesterday, and and he, like you said, you weren't trying to sell a product. I mean, you're trying to help people. That
I
was
was earnest about that and open. Everything you got to do clearly, obviously, you can't make things up. You got to be able to deliver on your promises, and you got to have integrity with what you put there. Shouldn't have to be said, but I'll say it. Because just about the time you think you idiot-proof something, somebody comes up with a better idiot. Is there ever too much promotion? I'm going to answer that in a moment when we look at some principles. So
good questions, Thomas. Here, you're ahead of the curve.
Yeah, well, that's a fear and concern, right? You're worried nobody wants a bunch of junk in their email box, and you're worried you're going to be that guy. Is that where that question's coming from? I all but guarantee it. Right.
Correct. Yes.
See, I anticipated your objection of doing this. It's going to show up in the principles in a moment. About this far in the curriculum. So we actually, if you go back and look at the curriculum, we kind of we kind of did this as we went on our learning curve. Okay, we'll come back. We will hit that. We only got about 20 minutes left. I say that, Julie has graciously said she'll keep this open until 3 o'clock. We're going to honor our time in terms of presenting and having a wee bit of question time. Well, actually, we're going to honor our time. I will stay around for 30 minutes for people who have extra time, and we will save the chat, and I can reach out to or put in the Facebook group that was established some of those questions and answers to them. I want to honor all your questions as much as I can. Okay, so here is we doubled our VBS. I really should have brought a picture of 60 kids on the front steps of the church, but I don't think I had a photo release for that for here. So we had, as I said, a VBS that traditionally had 25 to 30 kids. Here was the very first piece we sent out, and I only had 24 people on my list to send that to that were like people I really wanted to hit. Subject line, exciting new VBS, date set, mark your calendar. Awareness, right? Totally awareness. We loved having your child at Vacation Bible School last summer at First Presbyterian Church. Now, I'm going to show you something really interesting here. I created scarcity and urgency in the very first piece I put out. These are people who already share value with us, right? They're our visionaries and early adopters because they've already been to VBS. They get what's going on. So we loved having your kids. This year's VBS will be such and such. We're designing our own curriculum. I was trying to highlight the uniqueness of what we're going to do. That's a scarcity thing. Like if you're the only person doing it, right? That's scarcity. You got to come here if you want to get it. We'll tell you more soon, but right now, we just want to alert you to some very important news and ask you to mark the dates. You can't even register yet. Pure awareness. We won't even allow them to do this. We won't even show them where the door is yet. We're building anticipation. Friends who have attended in the past are going to get a special opportunity to register before anyone else. We created a priority registration for people who had only been in the past. That created a deadline all the way over here in our campaign. We have a limited number of spaces. We can only have 60 kids. And when I first asked, like, how many kids can we have? And I said, okay, we need to let people know we have limited spaces. So they said, but we only get like 25 or 30 kids. I was like, I know that, but we're going to get 60, and we did. So urgency from the beginning, scarcity, call to action, mark your calendar. Now, next piece was interest and desire. I'm going to show you this piece. I want to walk through it a little bit. I want you to notice what's missing in this piece. And I'll just kind of bullet point it as I go along. Going to love VBS this year. We're excited. We've got a new model. We're educating using godly play in that exclusivity. We're the only people doing it. We're using the model right now and are blown away at how our kids are responding. We're sharing a result, right? And a benefit. In fact, we're so impressed, we ditched the idea of using commercially produced VBS. We're designing our own. We're throwing out the box. This is a little bit more about exclusivity. Then check out, this is a list of benefits. Godly play, this is what it's going to do. It equips children to learn and listen to a story and be attentive to the Holy Spirit. Produces deeper understanding of Scripture. Invisibly and irresistibly draws kids into learning. You can read the bullet list. What I'm doing is listing the benefit for their child. Like, this is what's going to happen for your kids if they come to our VBS. Here's a short video we put together. Explains godly play. Gives you a sneak peek. So here's a sneak peek content. Lastly, look at this. Registration's not even available yet. It's pure anticipation still. Online registration will open in the next 24 hours. Don't forget, you'll have a special opportunity to register in advance of everyone else. We'll send you a link soon. Now, did you notice we didn't even provide any of the usual features? Can you tell me when that Vacation Bible School is? Maybe, did I even put that in there?
I don't think
Nope.
so.
You don't know when it is. You don't know where you can register. You don't know anything. But how many of you heard that and you were like, man, I want my kid to go to that? You know, like that sounds like a great event. It was pure anticipation and interest and desire. Lastly, here's an action piece. These were not, there were more pieces to this than that. The primary goal in that action piece on this piece was to take action. VBS friends, this was when we had our first registration deadline. We're excited by the registrations that have come in. That's social proof. Since we haven't heard from you, we wanted to be sure that you are aware that priority registration ends. It's a deadline. You just have 72 hours. Urgency. At that time, we'll open registration to anyone and everyone. When registration fills up, we'll start a waiting list. You don't want them to miss out. That's FOMO. But we really would hate to see friends who have participated in the past miss out on this unique opportunity to experience. Now, here, I didn't cover this. This is a whole nother strategy. It's creating what I call peer-to-peer marketing, but I'll give you a sneak glimpse. I'll have to share that another time. Speaking of friends, it struck us the other day that kids really enjoy bringing friends to VBS. Wouldn't it stink if you registered, but VBS was full before you could ask a friend? So we're extending our circle of early registration to include your friends. If you'd like to bring friends, simply forward this email to them, encourage them to register before time runs out. So now they are helping spread the word. And there's urgency for their friends to take action. Can't wait to see you. Hopefully a few of your friends this year, okay. And then last but not least, and this is a very short piece, a mixed content piece, meaning it's kind of dabs of everything. This was sent out something very late in the cycle to parents we hadn't heard from. And it was a direct content piece. I sent it through text and or Facebook messaging with people I know. Sarah, I'm emailing parents and encouraging them to register kids early if they know they'll be going. I put the dates. We're ordering t-shirts for everyone this year. The sooner we know sizes and quantities, the better. Here are two links you might find helpful. Those were, one was the registration page, and the other one was the interest video that I did in the second piece or something. Very, very short. Okay, I'm pause real quick on that one, and I'll hit these principles and I'll answer probably most of the questions that came up earlier. And these principles aren't long. Pause it and check in.
We're doing,
Oh, we're good? All right.
we're good.
So here's how to, and this already, if you just did what I told you, you're gonna see more results. I'm totally confident in that. But here's some things, principles to keep in mind. The first thing you want to do whenever you're creating a piece of content is stop the scroll. What do you think I mean by that? Everybody's out there getting bombarded. You have to grab their attention. The worst headline you can have, and it's the most used headline, is the name of your event or the study you're doing. Why would I say that? Well, here's why. Basically, people are just going to see the cover of the book before you get to explain the value of it, and they'll make a snap judgment. And you'll definitely drive it down to the people on the left end of that bell curve very rapidly by leading with that. Instead, you want a headline based off of a desire element, the pain that it will help them with or the gain it will help them with, because you want to grab the attention of the people who need to read it most, right? Does that make sense? So here's some just very simple, like here's the way I did it on Facebook. Grieving, you don't have to go it alone. Haven't said what it is yet. We just completed a 13-week grief support group that brought healing, comfort, and strength to those involved. That's the benefit. That's a testimonial of how it helps someone. So we're starting it back up again this Saturday. Now I'm telling them the stuff we normally do. Most announcements are upside down. They start at the bottom. Grief share group. Here's where you sign up. and then we try to tell them why it's important. Start with why it's important, then tell them where to get it. Does that make sense? If you do nothing else, come up with a benefit or a pain point, make it a headline, and turn your announcement upside down. If you learn nothing else today, do that. You'll get more people reading it. Here's a rookie mistake. I've already mentioned it, using the event title as your headline. I will say this, that is okay for this awareness piece. You know, you'll see I did that on the postcard, right? I never led with the name of the workshop in any of the follow-up pieces, did I? None of them. They all started with one of these elements. And I actually ended on, oh, if this is helpful, we're doing this. Why don't you come? Because you want to get a chance to make your case before they decide whether it's for them or not. And they'll do that if you just say, this is what we're doing. Deliver value. And this is going to answer Tom's question. I want you to notice that the vast majority of what I did in my campaign was I was delivering some kind of value. I was sharing some kind of knowledge. I was sharing a tip. I was putting helpful information out there to them. Here's why if you're sharing value, it becomes hard to have too much, because people then actually want what you're putting out there and they look forward to. A good rule is an 80-20 rule. 80% of your communication doesn't always have to be the case in your campaign, but 80% of your communication on your church channels deliver value. Most churches are telling people all the things that they're doing and trying to get them to go 80% of the time. If they would turn it upside down and spend 80% of their time delivering value and then say, oh, and by the way, we would love for you to come to this, you would get so much more response. And in your campaign, flipping that really, really helps. So for example, like the book study on prayer, sharing a tip, I talked about that earlier. Share a learning or tip from a book to give people a quick win or stir interest in diet could look like this. A quick tip to improve your prayer life. That's my heading. It's not the group, right? Try this from, say, the book, then share the tip or technique. End with, if you found this helpful, visit our study. It's upside down again, right? The main thing here is I delivered value to them. Here's why this is really, really, really important. I'm going to blow it up. Let me move below those. Why delivering value is so important. I blew it up too big. I'm just that excited by it. Delivering value helps people know, like, and trust you. That's a whole nother game, but people transact with you if they know, like, and trust you. Sharing content helps people know, like, and trust you. And it's critical for people to be able to take action. Many people worry about sending too much content. Hi, Tom. When you spend most of your time delivering value, people look forward to what you send. It becomes hard to send too much. If every time you open the door and I was standing there with a piece of chocolate cake, you wouldn't mind if I showed up at your door. Delivering value feeds reciprocity. This is kind of a whole nother principle we could get into, but when you deliver value to people, it increases a person's desire to want to give back an honor request. If I've done something for you and then I say, hey, I would love for you to come to this, they just feel more compelled to do that, right? Because you have this connection where they've been giving things to you, and most importantly, and this is huge, you're ministering to people whether they come to your event or not. There are hundreds of eyes that saw the posts that I made on Presbytery, Presby Connect, and they may never walk through this door, but they know something they didn't know before, and I've helped them. And so honestly, at the end of the day, what's our biggest concern? We want to help people, right? We want to serve. And why not make your campaign be an act of service? If for no other reason you attempt to, like you were, I'm sure, motivated to come here because you want bigger attendance, but you want bigger attendance because you want to touch people's lives. Why not touch people's lives while trying to get them to come? Just makes sense. Repurpose content on multiple streams. I've kind of pretty much already talked about that, but anything you can create, oftentimes it can be adapted to be released somewhere else. Those emails, once we got past the priority registration, I just literally put them on, I adapted them minorly, and I put them on Facebook as post. I put them in the newsletter. I literally just took the content and, the stuff on the postcard, I could have easily done as a video or a podcast, or, I actually did a verbal announcement at Presbytery, and I wove in another overcoming objections. And I kind of made a guarantee. I said, hey, at a minimum, if you go to this thing, here's what you're going to get. It'll at least give you this value. This piece, this is really important. Always include a call to action. Almost every communication I send to people includes a call to action. I give you 1 million of them here, like big list. Here's why you do that. Call to action creates engagement with your audience, and you're training your audience to take action. You're teaching them to take action on what you share. And it's also how you make sure you deliver value. It can also help you monitor how much people are, taking advantage of what you're sending out or being responsive to it. So always include a call to action. In that first thing that I sent out with the VBS, I said, mark your calendar. In the next piece, I think I said, watch this video. In another piece, I said, mail this to your friend. Did you notice that? I had a call to action in almost everything that I do. And because you don't want to just be presenting, you want to create a relationship of give and take and a conversation with your audience. And you can be brief. Some of these things were long content. I'll just say it doesn't have to be that way. You saw the postcard. You saw that one Facebook meme. You can do pretty brief things. You can read more about that there. Start early. I just mentioned that you want time for this to roll out, right? You can pull it off in a week. I've done it in a week, but you want time to slow roll this out. A lot of people need awareness. They need to see something multiple times. So here's how I would encourage you to, let me see. I did see some pop up. Would you start with a call to action as the header and then include the rest, or start with the why and then put the call to action at the end? I typically, more often than not, put it at the bottom, but you'll notice, like on some of my awareness pieces, my headline was the call to action. Mark your calendar, right? I started with what to do. It could be, here's a video for you, or watch this, right? You could lead with it. My tendency is to put it near the bottom, or sometimes I do both. Like, let's say I have a video, I might say, hey, I've got a video for you, and I'll put the link there. But before we get to that, and then I'll talk about whatever I want to talk about, here's that video again. That's a mechanical trick. I don't like the word trick, technique, because I'm not tricking people, but sometimes it's really helpful to have your call to action what's called above the fold, meaning that if they're on their laptop or if they're on their phone, they'll see the link without having to scroll. But then you also want to put it at the bottom so they don't have to scroll back up. that make sense? So you can do both, and honestly, it can be good to do both. So I'm not going to walk you through this because we've got like 2 minutes left, and I need to tell you a couple things, and I'll stick around for questions. But here's how you go about do this. Get clarity on the value of your event. I'll let you read through these questions. I'm not going to read to you, but basically, this series of questions is, I want you to literally sit down and brainstorm. What would somebody get out of this? What problem does it fix? What fear or concern might they have about it? Who would benefit from this? You need to prime your pump. If you do that, if you answer these questions and brainstorm these things, creating your content will go very, very quickly, because you just keep going over to your list of benefits, objections, and whatever. You just salt them in along your pieces. Decide a piece of content, preferably for each stage. And I give you a sample flow for a Sunday school class. You've seen 2 of those with the other examples. This is more bullet pointy. And then schedule when each piece will get distributed, and create your content and release it as needed. This is my last piece. Again, this could be a whole workshop. Contact people directly. Most of you are probably in small churches. In a large church context or a large audience, you may not be able to do that. I had a lot of people I reached out to personally and said, hey, I don't know if you know. I had one guy, I think Logan's on here. I saw him in a parking lot yesterday and said, dude, I'm doing this workshop tomorrow. You should come. And I sent him the link. That was, I think, the primary way I built up a children's ministry in one community. I started becoming Facebook friends with all the parents as I met them, and I would directly message them. The fear is it's going to take a lot of time. One time I said, well, let's just see how much time it takes. I set a timer. It took me 20 minutes to take a message and paste it to parents. And some of them and that's even with personalizing them, like, hey, how'd the soccer game go? I hope Casey can come, whatever, but I had my stock information I needed to get to them. Took me 20 minutes to cut and paste that and personalize it to what would be a reach of 30 something kids. 20 minutes. One night I did that. I only had 2 people that I thought were going to show up for an event. I texted all the parents, and in about 30 minutes, I think I went from 2 people to 9 people. Personal contact. If you can do it, do it. Divvy it out. If you're on a committee, say, who's going to call these people? And hold on to that till along here. You just do your outliers. You don't have to start with calling everybody. That's the fence sitters. Find the fence sitters. Okay, that's it. I will say this. So templates, here's something I want to know, and we need to save the chat. As I've been talking about this, those 5 categories of content, I'll go up here, I'll put it on the screen. Here's something I want you to put in the chat. I'm going to give you templates for each of these. My plan is to send those out Tuesday. I'm going to say that a little loosely, but I'll get them to you within the next week. Which of these categories do you feel you most need help with? Like some of those awareness, you're like, I don't really need a lot of help there. Let me know which categories you most need help with. Based off the feedback I get, I'll probably put the majority of my time where your need is. Okay, fair enough. Put it in the chat. What would you most like help with? And I'm going to repeat and put in the chat my the Facebook group. I hope you'll come over there and join me. And then my last thing is, would you like more? Should we do this more frequently? Because there are a lot of things that I didn't go into, or we could deep dive. We could do a whole section on here's how you build anticipation. We could do a whole section on here's how you promote this. let me know. I love doing this. This is my passion. I began saying, I believe that the church is the best kept secret, and it shouldn't be. I want that secret out there. I know you want that secret out there. I want to help do that. I'm fired up, and this makes me alive, and I think it's where God wants me to serve. So if I can help you, let me know. And let's not forget to share, save that. So templates will come around Tuesday, but I really want to make sure I don't want to spend a lot of time on a bunch of templates that don't necessarily, they're not really what you need. Like, that doesn't help either of us. I think that's all I have in the workbook. Please download it. I shared my email address in there. I'll leave it at that. We're 2 minutes over, but we had to start 6 minutes late with the recording. So that means we really are like 4 minutes left. But I'll stick around for about 30 minutes for other things. Hey, thank you guys. Who throw something you learned down today? As you go out, say something I learned, and then we'll go.
Thanks, John.
You're
Really
welcome.
appreciate this.